Thank you. Good evening. I guess I should be slave number dot. I guess there's no point talking about what Shyam meant to me and how much he did for me and what I owe him and how his filmic vision affected the landscape of filmmaking in the country and his generosity and his kindness. These are all givens. There is a line by Khalil Gibran in his book, The Prophet, where he says, work is love made visible. And if you cannot work with love, then it's better that you should leave your work and sit at the gate of the temple and take alms from those who work with joy. These words seem like they were written for Shyam. I've always believed that death is the most unimportant part of life, and ironically the only inevitable part. What is important is what you do with the time you have. And it's undeniable that Shyam used every single moment of his life, every breath, every iota of energy in a creative pursuit of some kind or the other. And something tells me he's not through. Because I can see this wonderful film being made in the big studio in the sky, with Shyam directing and assisted by his trusty assistants, Girish Kanekar, Prahlad Kakkar, Khinchpal Kasturi, which is the name I owe to Prahlad, and Ashok Mehta is behind the camera, Vanraj Bhatia is doing the music. The screenplay is written by Vijay Tendulkar, only slightly ruined by Dubeji's dreadful dialogue. And of course it stars Girish and Smita and Amrish and Om, with guest appearances by Sadhu Meher and Priya Tendulkar. I feel kind of wistful I'm not in that film. I suppose I should be grateful for small mercies. But there are a couple of passages I would like to read to you from The Prophet, which may offer some solace to my foster mother, Neera, and my foster sister, Priya. And a woman said, "Speak to us of joy and sorrow." And he answered, "Your joy is your sorrow, unmasked. And the self-same well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. And how else can it be? When you are joyous, look deep into your heart and you will find it is only that which has given you sorrow that is giving you joy. When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart and you will find that you are weeping for that which has been your delight. Some of you say joy is greater than sorrow, and others say, nay, sorrow is the greater. But I say unto you, they are inseparable. Together they come. And when one sits alone with you at your board, remember that the other is asleep upon your bed. Just as the heart of a fruit must break, that its heart may stand in the sun, so must you know pain. And could you keep your heart in wonder at the daily miracles of your life, your pain would not seem less wondrous than your joy. And you would accept the seasons of your heart, even as you always accept the seasons that pass over your fields. And you would watch with serenity through the winters of your grief. Thank you.
Thank you, Nasir. If there was one film and a celebration, to his numerous film fans, Mr. Shyam Benegal was that original auteur who marched to the beat of a different drummer. But to those privileged to know him more closely, he was many other things as well. A mentor, a raconteur, a connoisseur, a polymath. Listen now to the voices of some of the people who knew Shyam Babu closely and for many years. The first of these will be Prahlad Kakkar, who by his own confession was one of Shyam Babu's early, very early slaves. Tell us more, Prahlad.
Thank you, Guru. I was just wondering how I was going to turn and introduce myself as an early slave. I was slave number 3 and never got promoted, never got demoted. So till today, I remain slave number 3. And we not only inherited that from Shyam, but we actually implemented it back in our times, in our offices, because there was a method in his madness. And the method was that if you were ever going to be a filmmaker, you could not have a designation. Because you could never get up and say, this is not my job. And that is the one thing that he taught us. That everything to do with film, from serving food, to maybe cooking it, to cleaning shit, to designing a set design, to supervising carpenters, to sitting on the tarapa with the light boys. Everything is your job. Because if you don't know how the rest of the team functions, you don't have a team. And that's what it is all about. And people, when I tell them that we were slaves with Shyam, they sort of look at me a little askance and say, isn't that a bit Dacronian? Not at all. We were slaves of a family. When we were slaves, it was a privilege because we became the extended family. And that is exactly how we all felt. And every slave that's in this room today will understand exactly what I'm saying. Because being called a slave was special. Because that means that he took time out to actually spend time on how you progressed and what you learned. And the only thing I can say about Shyam Babu was that we all are products and a result of that time that he spent with us. Till the last. And the amazing part was that I could never imagine his great generosity of spirit, his capacity to teach, his capacity to mentor, and his capacity to inspire. And that was amazing, watching him right through my student times with him, and watching him inspire actors, watching him inspire writers, watching him inspire people around him to perform beyond what they thought they could. That was his greatest gift to all of us. I think that's his legacy. Thank you.
It was Ankur. Once Ankur happened, so did Shabana Azmi. Time has blessed her, and she has just completed 50 years of work in the cinema. I'm so glad we have her here today in person to tell us about Mr. Benegal, Shabana Azmi.
The first image I have of Shyam Benegal was in 1973. And what struck me most about him was his wide, warm smile as I went to visit him in the ASP office, where he was the creative director, looking to cast Ankur. The last image I have of Shyam was on 14th December 24, when Ira and Pia had organized a celebration for his 90th birthday. After spending a beautiful hour with all of us, I saw him being whisked away with that same warm, wide smile. Shyam Benegal was my guru, although a reluctant one. He didn't want to be called anybody's guru, but he was my guru. Nevertheless, not only because he was my first director, but also because by just being around him, I learned so many little lessons of life. He was also my mentor. I consulted him every now and then about a project that perhaps I should do or not. He wanted to be neither my guru nor my mentor. He was my friend, my equal, and he created that space for this friendship. He never jatawed any ownership on me, although in the relationship it would have been very natural for him to do so. Never. He gave me equal respect and equal ability to stand on my own while also respecting the work. I could fill chapters about my relationship with Shyam, but there are little snippets I'd like to talk about. I remember when I was doing Mandi, okay, I must say that he was also a very canny person, because when we were doing Mandi, we were 40 of us, people either from the Film Institute or the NSD, and everybody was there for 40 days, 40 of us for 40 days, and we saw that there was great camaraderie and everybody was everybody's friend, and I marveled that, there was no friction, no bad moment, and I wondered how he made that possible. And then many years later, an AD of his shared with me that Shyam had called them right at the beginning of the shoot and said, these are 40 actors who are going to be together for 40 days. Some of them have big parts, some of them have small parts, but all of them are very talented people. See that you never bruise anybody's ego, and see that you look after the people with the smaller parts more than the people who have the main parts. I don't think that any director before that or after that could have shown that kind of empathy. I remember when I was doing Mandi, I was very concerned that I was too young to play the Madame of the Brothel. And so I decided to look up some of them myself. So I went to Pila House and I saw that they were very young girls. Even the Madame of the Brothel was very young, and that they were all dressed up like the popular film star of that day. So I came away a little more convinced that, all right, maybe this is possible. Who do you think took me there? The famous Qawwali singer Aziz Nazam and my college mate Farooq Sheikh. I found it prudent never to ask them how they had full access to Pila House. After that, Rukhsana Sultan took me to GB Road in Delhi, and I found Rukmini Devi there. The put on nazakat, the over-exaggeration of courtesy, the idea of the person Rukmini was came from that. Then Shyam and I went to Hira Bazaar in Hyderabad, and we saw this young woman without a dot of makeup in one white blouse and a nylon sari. I don't know, Neera, whether you know this or not, but she stood there with her head down, and then somebody told her to dance. And so they put on a record of mine from a film called Fakira, which is an almost devotional song that I sing to my husband, Puja Karungi Teri. And she broke up into the most raucous version of Puja Karungi. Kahan se main bata nahi sakti, but let me tell you, it was navel downwards. So I was absolutely shocked. Through this whole thing, there was one man sitting in a corner, completely expressionless, sitting on his haunches, not at all getting involved with what was happening. And Shyam said, that's my Tumrus. And that is the character Tumrus that Naseer has played so memorably. So why I'm saying this is the little things that he would pick up. Once I was humming a ditty, Hyderabadi ditty, and he said, "Ye kya ga rahi ho?" तो मैंने कहा ये मेरी मम्मी गाती थी हैदराबाद का. And then I sang मैं कितनी बार बोला ना जी. He said, well, I want this in the film. So let me put a scene. And then he put this scene where Rukmini Devi sits in front of him in the mirror and she's doing that. He was constantly picking up from life. His relationship with his actors was amazing because he loved them. And he never told them exactly what he wanted them to do. He would explain the situation to them and let them free. Now, I think what he did was gave the actors so much confidence that you could dare to go into uncharted territories. You didn't have to play safe. You could try something knowing that if you were making an ass of yourself, Shyam will rein you in. That kind of trust between a director and an actor is the best thing that a director can give. For sure. There are many such incidents that I can go on. Once I remember I told him, I said, what do you think is the difference between commercial cinema and what is called parallel cinema? And he said, without blinking, he said, mainstream cinema whitewashes all the details. They don't locate you in reality. They locate you in an alternative reality. Whereas independent cinema tries to locate you totally in a recognizable place. So the diction is important, the way they are dressed is important, the locale needs to be important, and that's the difference. What struck me was that it made me understand that, when I was working in the 80s, in most of the mainstream films, it used to drive me mad that whether it was a police inspector's house or whether it was a millionaire's house, when you walked into the bedroom, on the dressing table, there was one eau de cologne bottle, there was one Charmis cream, and there was one talcum powder and a dirty brush and a comb, obviously hastily borrowed from the makeup man. And it used to drive me mad. And then I realized, okay, so they are switching to a suspension of disbelief. Let's not worry about it. So it was little things, but what struck me was there was no judgment. There was no judgment. He was not saying, wo theek nahi hai, hum behtar hai, never. And that's how he was throughout his life. I don't see him ever passing judgment. So many young people, so many filmmakers, so many inspired writers come and would like to pay obeisance at his feet, and he would shy away from it all. He just embraced people, and that is his warmest quality that will always remain with me. Like Shumantra said, he loved jazz, He loved telling tales. He was a great raconteur. He liked holding conversations. And I've had many, many conversations with him. And I look forward to many more conversations with him, wherever he is. You know, recently, another great artist, Zakir Hussain, passed away. Now, we were looking at a lot of interviews that he'd done. In one of the interviews, he said कि शागिर्द जो है वो उस्ताद से सीखता है और फिर उसके बाद वो उस्ताद का ट्रेडिशन लेके आगे बढ़ता है, फिर उसके शागिर्द होते हैं, फिर वो ट्रेडिशन बनता है और इस तरह से धीरे 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 वो एक घराना बनता है. और मुझे यकीन है कि ये वो दिन बहुत दूर नहीं है जबकि श्याम बेनेगल घराना बनेगा हमारी फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में. क्योंकि इतने सारे लोग जिनका ट्रस्ट उन्होंने बनाया है, जिनको उन्हें हिम्मत दी है, जिनको उन्हें मोहब्बत दी है. थैंक यू. थैंक यू.